Okay. So you know how sometimes when you're scrolling through the news, it's just like headline after headline after headline. It's all just kind of a blur.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It can be really hard to figure out what's actually important, like what's really worth paying attention to.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much noise out there, right?
Exactly. So what we're doing today is we're going to try to cut through all that noise.
Okay.
We're taking a deep dive into something that really caught our eye, the potential nomination of Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence under Donald Trump.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been following that too, and it's definitely raising some eyebrows.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you'd expect, and there's some pushback happening that's really unexpected.
Right. Like usually you'd think that a president's nominee, especially someone who's, aligned with the current administration, would just kind of sail through the confirmation process.
Right, like remember Pete Hegseth?
Oh, yeah.
Like there was some controversy there,
Okay.
but he got through without too much trouble.
Yeah. And generally speaking, the thinking is that the president should be able to choose their team.
Right. But this Tulsi Gabbard situation, it's not really following that playbook.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, we've been looking at some reports, analysis from the Ring of Fire, some other sources.
Right.
And it seems like her path to confirmation might be a lot rockier than people initially thought.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting because the reasons she's facing this pushback are not what you would expect.
Okay.
So we've got Mark Caputo at Axios Punchbowl News, the Wall Street Journal. All these sources are reporting that Gabbard has been having some major problems in her meetings with Republican senators.
Oh, wow.
Like some are even saying that she bombed these interviews.
Seriously?
Yeah, and you're probably thinking, okay, what kind of questions could she possibly be messing up on?
Right, like what's going on there?
Well, it seems like the biggest issue is her views on surveillance.
Ah, that makes sense.
I think about the Director of National Intelligence oversees the entire intelligence community.
Right, huge responsibility.
Yeah, so naturally senators are going to really grill any nominee on their stance on government surveillance.
Definitely a fundamental issue.
And if she's struggling to answer those questions clearly and confidently, well, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what her stance actually is.
And, Mark Caputo, he made this really interesting observation about Trump world.
Oh, okay.
He said that usually their messaging is all about confidence, like 110%,
Yeah, always projecting strength.
Right. But even they're admitting that Gabbard is facing more turbulence than any other potential nominee.
Huh. That's pretty telling.
Yeah, it means this is serious. They're not just brushing this off.
And what I find even more interesting is who the Trump team seems to be blaming for all this.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
You'd think they'd be putting pressure on those Republican senators to get in line.
Right.
But actually, the reports are saying that they're mad at Gabbard herself.
Yeah, supposedly because she seemed unprepared.
Wow, that's a pretty harsh assessment.
It is. But it shows you how much emphasis they put on those Senate meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for a role like this, you really have to be on top of your game.
Exactly. And this is where things get even more complicated because if you look back at Gabbard's past,
Okay.
she actually has a history of being against government spying on American citizens.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, that was kind of her thing, even as she shifted to the right politically.
So how is she reconciling that with the Trump administration's views on surveillance?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
I mean, is she genuinely okay with surveillance now, or is she just saying what she thinks she needs to say to get confirmed?
Yeah, it's tough to tell. And, senators are going to be looking for any sign of insincerity.
Definitely, especially those who are really concerned about civil liberties or national security.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what's really driving this shift in her stance.
Yeah. Is it a change of heart or is it just political maneuvering?
Right. And that uncertainty can be really hard to overcome in a confirmation process.
Totally, because senators are going to be trying to gauge how strongly she actually believes what she's saying.
Right. Is she fully committed to this new stance or is it just a means to an end?
Exactly. And if they sense any hesitation, that could be a major obstacle.
And to be fair, our sources do point out that some Republican senators have said publicly that they're satisfied with her answers.
Okay, so it's not like unanimous opposition.
Right. And we also have to consider the broader party dynamics here.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans generally tend to support their president's nominations.
Exactly. It's seen as a matter of loyalty and respecting the president's right to choose their team.
Right. But our source does bring up an interesting point about Matt Gaetz.
Oh, yeah. What about him?
So he was also under consideration for a role, but then he pulled himself out.
Okay.
And apparently Trump's view was that if one of his picks got rejected, then all of them should be approved.
That's an interesting take.
It is, right? Like he was drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, and that brings us to the sacrificial lamb theory that our source discusses.
Well, what's that all about?
So the idea is that some Republicans might vote against Gabbard strategically.
Strategically, how so?
Well, by opposing a nominee who's already facing scrutiny and seems to have stumbled, they could show their independence. You know, like maybe they want to appeal to certain voters or just demonstrate that they're not just rubber stamping everything the president wants.
Okay, so they're sending a message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they could still make sure that other Trump nominees get confirmed.
Interesting. So it's like they're sacrificing Gabbard to protect the others.
Right. And our source mentions these hypothetical nominees, Kennedy and Patel, as examples.
So it's a way for these senators to kind of have their cake and eat it too.
Exactly. They get to look independent without actually jeopardizing the president's agenda.
It's pretty crafty when you think about it.
It is. But here's the really interesting part. The analyst in our source actually thinks this theory is unlikely.
Really?
Yeah, they seem to think that Gabbard will probably still be confirmed despite all this.
So even though she's reportedly grossly unprepared.
Apparently so.
Wow, that really highlights how much pressure there is to confirm a president's cabinet choices.
Right, especially when their party controls the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about party unity and avoiding a big public fight.
And sometimes that desire for unity can outweigh any concerns about a specific nominee.
So even if they have reservations, they might just confirm her to avoid a headache.
It seems that way.
So to sum up, we've got Tulsi Gabbard, a Trump nominee for a really important intelligence position.
Right.
And she's facing some unexpected pushback, not necessarily because people are outright opposed to her,
Right.
but because of these reported issues in her Senate interviews, especially her answers about surveillance.
And even the Trump team seems to be frustrated with her performance.
Yeah, it's a pretty unusual situation.
It is, because it goes against the usual expectation that a president's nominees, especially from their own party, will get confirmed pretty easily.
Right, and it seems like the main obstacles here are Gabbard's past record, her struggles to explain her current views, and the political calculations of those Republican senators.
So the big question we've been exploring in this deep dive is whether those struggles will ultimately derail her nomination.
Right. Or will the political realities and the desire for party unity lead to her confirmation, despite these apparent problems?
It's a fascinating case study in how these appointments really play out.
It really makes you think about the complexities of these decisions.
And given the typical partisan lines we see in politics,
Yeah.
this unexpected resistance over things like preparedness and surveillance, it really raises some questions about what's truly important to the Republican Party right now.
Yeah, it suggests that there's more going on than just blindly following party lines.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more nuanced than that.
Definitely a lot to think about.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah.
And until next time, stay informed.
And stay curious.
You got it.
See you later.
Bye.